was a convert to the church in 1961. After hearing the missionaries talk of the church for 9 months, I was eventually baptized, and I have quite a long story on that history that I have written down and recorded, which I will talk of later. I've always been a very keen person to enjoy genealogy, as it was called in those days, recording of our ancestors, researching them and getting the details and their names so that the necessary ordinances could be performed for them in the temples. This was one of the wonderful things that inspired me to join the church, was hearing that as we leave this earth and we go on, that this work needs to be done for us and for our ancestors who didn't get the chance to hear the gospel. So I've always been very keen on family history work, as it's called now. And one of these experiences that I had regarding family history, I want to tell you about today. It was one of the first experiences that I had, and I was quite surprised. It was in the late 1970s, it would be, when we had 4 children and we were living on a farm near to Lockington, Lund area, near Driffield and Beverley. One night, in the middle of the night, I awoke, and there in the room were a group of people just in the corner. I can still picture it. To my mind, it said there were 13 there, though I didn't attempt to count them. It just flowed into my mind, the number. And these people, they were just head and shoulders, grouped together in a group, and they were, with their eyes, pleading with me. And with their eyes and their minds, they said, "We need you," quite earnestly. "We need you," they would say. I was quite afraid at first. I thought, I don't want to go with them. And I said, "I'm too busy. I can't come with you. I have too much here to do on the earth. I have my church callings, my family, the farm, the home, so much to do." The dream, as my husband thought it was, the people left in the room, and I woke my husband and told him, Jeff. I told him what had happened. He said, "You're dreaming." I said, no, I'm not. I'm awake, and it was real. I saw them. Well, I went back to sleep. The next night, the same thing exactly happened again. The same experience. The room, the same group of people, 13, head and shoulders, pleading with their eyes, "We need you. We need you." And I replied the same things, that I couldn't go. Well, 2 nights had passed, and I knew that things come in threes, and I was very anxious that I wouldn't be gone from this earth. So I pleaded with the Lord. In my prayers that night, I said, "Lord, if it happens tonight, I want you to tell me when the next morning when I awake what it's all about and what I should do." Because I told the Lord I did want to awake the next day. And so that night I went to sleep, and of course the thing happened again. The people were there, and very intensely they said, "We need you. We need you." Now my husband had said, "If it happens tonight on the 3rd night, you know what to do, don't you?" I said, "No. What do you say? What do you think?" He said, "Well, all you have to do when they say 'we need you' is, 'All right, I'm coming.'" He said, "Then we can all get some sleep." Well, I wouldn't want jokes at that time. That was his sense of humour in the night when we were just about to go to sleep. But here I was again on the 3rd night, and the same thing was happening again. Well, that night I went back to sleep after this 3rd happening, and of course was relieved to wake up on the morning after the 3rd night appearance. And the first thing that came into my mind was, go down to the Beverley Records office, to the research centre. With a gasp, I thought, there's no way I can go on a Monday. Because on Sundays, we had a lot of members down, new members from the Beverley branch. It was very small, and we often had people from the forces and other people that joined the church to our home on Sundays. And I would prepare the meal a couple of days before to make the main course and desserts. And then Mondays were spent tidying up and putting things right, getting the children off to school, and helping and doing what else needed on the farm. So Mondays were out of the question to go anywhere. However, into my mind it came, just tidy the house and then go down to the records office. Because I remembered, yes, I had asked the Lord the night before that he would tell me what the dreams were all about, what the real vision I'd had was. My husband said they were dreams, but I knew I'd really seen these people, and I was awake at the time. And so I thought, the thought that came into my mind to go to the records office, which flowed straight in as soon as my eyes awoke, was that I had to go and do it. So I thought, right, I'll go down. But I don't know what I'm going for, because I am stuck on both lines of our descent, both on the Dunning line and my own line of the Towse family. I was on the 5th generation of finding my ancestors, and I thought, what am I going to the records office for? I've looked in almost every village in the area, and I cannot find this next generation, the 6th one, going back on my side. And on my husband's Dunning line, I was also stopped there. I knew the family were at Bishop Burton, and that area, in Cherry Burton, but I couldn't get the next generation on his either. However, I went down. I went into the records office. It was always a very stern man there, and he wasn't very favourable to the Mormon church. And he knew me quite well, because I was to go quite often, whenever time allowed, to get records and search these villages around about, where they had the real record books, and they had all the baptisms and ordinances there that were performed in the Church of England. Well, when he said, what did you want to see? The words flowed into my head. The nonconformist records that I had ordered. I never had thought of this, but it just flowed into my head while I was thinking, what village should I ask for to search on these records and these books that the old priest had written the baptisms and records down. So I said the nonconformist records to him. And I said, I know it's only 3 months since I ordered them. And I was waiting for him to say, now you know it takes 9 months for these to come through, because they are ordered and come on a roll of film. But he didn't say that. He said, yes, he said, I have them. I said, you have? He said, yes. I said, well, how long have they been here? And he said, 3 days. And so I said, oh. I was quite amazed, especially that I'd had this vision of these people for the last 3 nights. And then he said, I'll put the film on for you. I was utterly amazed again, because he never ever did that. And my time was so short that day to get back home again to the farm and to do the things that had to be done. And I knew the films took time. Sometimes they'd put them on upside down, they'd be back to front. They'd been sent in the other way around, and you had to unwind them and set them back to the beginning. But he put the film on himself and did it quite quickly and saw that it was running from the beginning. So just as he started the film and started turning the wheel for it to appear on the screen, I said, stop, because there it said Dunning on the surname. And to my amazement, there were 13 people as I looked down at the names. 13 names of a family of Dunning. And then he said, okay, I'll leave you now to look through the film. So there it was, a family of 13. I realised then, as I wrote down the names and the dates and the places of their birth and recorded them down on paper, that these were the people that had appeared to me those 3 nights. 13 of them, and it was a group of family, and it was the next generation on my husband's line. And the reason I hadn't found them before and was stopped was because they were not Church of England, they were not in the parish records I'd been searching in the villages. They were nonconformists, which means they didn't conform to the Church of England rules and regulations. They were Baptists, and one of the people, as I looked through these records, was a name of Dunning, and he was a Baptist preacher. He was a very solid Baptist. And so the people had appeared to tell me, and they didn't want to wait 9 months for me to go and look at these records, which was the usual time to wait when you ordered these films. They knew that those records were there, and they told me to go and get down there and see them, because through the Spirit of the Lord I was asked to do that. And they knew that their records were there. And I have since had many experiences of ancestors appearing to me on both sides of our family, because I have done both the lines of research, some back to 1400s and others further. And these people have always let me know that they are grateful for the work that's been done. They have come and offered me and told me to go to certain places, and I found 11 generations at one of them when my mother appeared shortly after a funeral. I've had great experiences and great testimonies of being revealed certain things to me to do so that I would know where to go. And I'm truly grateful for this. I have a great testimony. My mother and grandmother told me years ago of an experience they had when during the World War II, when we were being very badly attacked by the Germans. They were bombing England very badly. My mother said her brother was serving in the forces. He had 2 children and a wife. While he was away, he'd served his time and he was due to come home. The family decorated the home all ready for this appearance of him, and put up trimmings, the old-fashioned ones that you link together and put up on the ceiling. They were all happy to see their brother returning. Well, this was just a couple of days before he was due to come home. But that night, my grandmother came down the stairs and she said, "Jack won't be coming home." And they said, "Oh, Nan." They said, some of them called her Nan. They said, "Of course he is. You know that he is. We've received the information that he's coming home." She said, no, he's not. She said, and she told them that he'd come to her bedside at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they thought that she'd lost her mind, because some people did in those days. All the bombing, the houses were ruined. People were in the shelters, in and out during the night. Lack of sleep, lack of rations. She continued. She said, "Jack stood at my bedside, at the end of my bed, and he said to me, 'I have to go now.' She said, 'Please don't go. Please don't go, Jack.' He said, 'I have to go.' And he'd come to show his love to his mother. And he left the room. Now, she told the family all this, and they still thought it was her mind, that she must have lost it, and it would have been a dream. But she insisted she had seen him. Well, within a day or two, a telegram came to the home. And it said that Jack, their brother, and my grandmother's son, who had the 2 children, had been killed. He'd been shot. He was on a bridge and he was shot by the Germans. And he had received medals later for all that he did, for the bravery he had and the courage. And so the family realised that Grandma really had seen him, that love continues beyond the grave, that family love does go on for eternity, that we do have connections with those that are going and leaving this earth, those returning, and those who are sent to give us messages and allowed to help us in times of need. I know myself that when we had a very experience in our lives where we had a lot of worry and I couldn't sleep, I begged for the Lord to help me every night to sleep. One night that I prayed for this, I saw in the room a lady when I opened my eyes during the night, as I did often. She was dressed in white with a sash around her waist. She stood in the corner of the room where my eyes met as I opened them, and she said, "We are aware of you." And straight away I went back to sleep, which was unusual because at that time I couldn't. If I awoke, I stayed awake all night. I slept and then I woke again. And where I was laid in the bed, my eyes were looking at the other side of the room, and there she stood in white apparel again, an older, mature lady, like we see in the temples working. And she said, "We are aware of you." I went straight back to sleep. The peace that flowed from her flowed into me. And then again, third time in that night, I awoke. My eyes, I was leaning on my right side, and I looked that way. And there she was, stood where my eyes opened. And she said, "We are aware of you." And the peace and love flowed from her to me, and I slept throughout the remainder of that night. I knew that this was a real thing and a real personage I had seen. And it convinces me of the faith that I had that was very strong as a Catholic before I joined the church, that we do go on into the next life. But the true gospel light has revealed that not only do we go on into the next life, but that we are connected as families. And I am grateful for this knowledge, for what the gospel has brought into my life. I am thankful for the testimony I have, and that I have always known that the church is true, and that the true gospel was revealed to me through missionaries coming from Utah, coming to the shores of England, and having the faith to bring that. I am grateful, and grateful that I had the humility to pray and to ask for an answer. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.